PLC Network here with another unboxing, this time coming from the company Comica. We're back with another wireless microphone kit from this company, a company that has a large number of options out there to choose from for both entry-level users and professionals even, or prosumers out there looking to get their hands on a cost-effective kit that can do a lot. And what we have today is the BooMax, the BooMax 2.4G Wireless Lav Microphone System. It is a dual microphone kit, which means you get 2 lavs, 1 receiver, which means you can have 2 people talking with only 1 receiver coming back to the camera or whatever you're recording to. It offers up to 48 kilohertz, 32-bit float audio recording internally. And that does mean internally, so output is gonna be a little bit less, but internally into the unit, it has up to 32 gigs of space. So that way you can just record the audio directly to this, either as a backup or as your main source of audio that you can insert to your video later on in post-edit, giving you plenty of audio quality for those, well, interviews or skits or anything else you want to be able to make use of this for. What's interesting about this one is it has 2 pickup pattern options. You have cardioid and you have omnidirectional. It's a switchable option that allows you to choose which pickup pattern you want to make use of, which is kind of cool for a mobile lav mic system like this. This is using the built-in microphone. Now, if you decide that you don't want to use the built-in microphone and you want to use one of your favorite external lav mics, your wired mics, you can do that as well, as it does offer a 3.5 millimeter TRS output on the transmitters so that you can do that. It also offers digital and analog output with real-time monitoring. So you can output this to a camera, to a phone, a tablet, or a laptop, or a computer. Whatever your needs may be, this should have you covered when it comes to getting the audio that this is putting out. Again, with real-time monitoring, so that way when you're in a shoot, you can listen to the audio live to make sure everything is okay. And like most modern wireless mic kits now, I mean, it wouldn't really be a good mic kit if it didn't offer some form of noise cancellation for the environmental noise around you. With that, it offers CalMix 2-stage denoise support built in. So that way you can eliminate some of that background noise and not have to worry so much about that in your records in case something happens, like you're outside doing an interview and a car goes screaming by. It's not going to really protect you too much, you know, if that is a souped up muscle car or something and overpowers the microphone too much. I mean, it's kind of hard to really fix something like that, but for minor to mid-level noise distractions in your environment, it's important to have some form of noise cancellation to help save your record. For control, it offers an IPS touchscreen along with a physical knob to be able to make your way through the menus, or, well, actually more volume. So that way it's easy to get in and out of your options and set the volume of both microphones from the camera. It offers up to 20 hours of use when you're making use of the charging case, which is important. This not only provides an option for everything to travel in, or at least the receiver and the 2 transmitters, but this also allows you to keep them charged when they're not in use, extending their usage life. And it gives you up to 200 meters line of sight use. Or range when it comes to the transmitters to the receiver. Now that seems like a lot. 200 meters is a lot, especially for something this small. I wouldn't count on that too much because it's going to be heavily dependent upon perfect world conditions. You know, so I'm talking outside, no trees, no walls, no bushes, no nothing, just flat, straight open land, and you're 200 meters away. And maybe you'll get up to 200 meters. I would probably shoot for up to 100 meters just to be safe, and even then, who's doing that with one of these? It's just something to keep into consideration. On paper, it's up to 200 meters is what the company is promising, but usually in real-world conditions, because you're usually shooting indoors or outside with other types of interferences like nearby cell towers and Wi-Fi or anything else that might cause physical or digital interference, it's best to assume that this is probably going to be a little bit less than that. Now, it also supports the Comica audio app, so you have some control from your phone in terms of burning through some of these settings and configuring it so you don't have to use the touchscreen, perhaps. Always a good feature. And then you have the price, which is always a challenge because some of these affordable mic kits, they're kind of all over the place on price, and sometimes some of those entry-level options, especially if it's a newer company and they're just looking for funding, they might price themselves a little bit too high. Now, Comica isn't a new company. They've been around for quite a long time now. We shouldn't have to worry about that, and they are pretty good at kind of sticking it to the competition. So, price point, just $189. Not bad. That's a pretty good price point for this. And then, of course, there's optional accessories. It doesn't come with the external lavs because you have 2 switchable mics built into these lavs, or at least the packs. But you have the option of getting a Comica external wired lav if you so choose. Those run about $30 per lavalier. And of course, that's 3.5 millimeters. So if you have any other 3.5 millimeter TRS microphone, it should be able to work with this just fine. If you're using something from Sennheiser or Shure, or even a company like Ceramonic, and some of these other great brands out there, it should work with this as long as it's a 3.5 millimeter TRS connection. So that's a lot to go over right there. Obviously, one of the most important things is to open this up, see what it looks like, what it comes with, and then later on we're gonna hook it up and see what it sounds like. So let's go ahead and open it up. We do have some documentation here. We have a small little certification card. We have a warranty card, and then we have some instructions for you to be able to go through all the various different settings and options that it has to offer, showing you how to make your connectivity to the camera, and of course using the live monitoring so you can make sure that everything sounds good. Then we have the case here. Now this is a cool case. This is a soft, mostly soft case. It isn't a semi-hard shell. This is a actual carrying case that's similar to some of your, I'd say older camera or camcorder bags out there. It's more of a bag than a case, but it does look nice. It feels nice, and it does have some impact resistance to it in case you were to drop something. It's always good to make sure everything is protected. It's also good to see that everything comes in a format where you can both use the bag and the charging case, everything together, instead of having 2 separate things you have to carry around. This makes it a lot easier. Everything packs into one carrying bag, including the charging case with everything in it. So you got a little loop here in the side. You got one zipper. You have the Comic-Con logo that's just kind of sewn into the mix there. And it looks like it's probably a 3 different section pouch or bag. So we're gonna open that up. And I'm right. As you can see, it just kind of unfolds open so that it's easy to access everything. It's actually really kind of cool. Everything's just directly accessible, and there shouldn't really be any need for digging around for anything as long as you keep it organized. Right here on the side here is a fun little, it just looks like a metal or a magnetic little flap here that stores the clips. So that way you can easily get to the magnetic clips for the lavs. And the whole purpose of that is so that you can wear them directly on the shirt without any kind of weird clipping action or anything like that, or the necessity of having some kind of an apparel choice that requires something to clip to. This allows you to clip or to magnetically just clip them onto any material, any apparel, whatever. If it's somebody who's wearing a frilly dress or anything that doesn't have anything to clip to, now you can, simply by using magnets. And this just gives you something to smack those magnets onto, and it just kind of lives to the side of the charging case, which is in the direct center. In that same pocket, we have some accessories here. In those 2 little bags, we have the fur windscreens that attach to the microphones, and this is going to be for when you have windy situations outside. If you're doing an interview outside and it's just the breeze is kicking up just a little bit and you can hear it during your initial sound checks, pop these on there, and this is going to help reduce a lot of that noise from that wind or heavy breathing so that you're not picking that up. And then on the other side, looks like we just have cables, that's it. We have 3 loops inside here for you to be able to slide things into. One is a USB-A to USB-C cable right here, just for use with charging the case and everything that's in it. And then you have a 3.5 millimeter to 3.5 millimeter cable here for use with anything that is just a general TRS device. So this is going to be a camera or anything else that can take a TRS connection for a microphone input. Now, some phones and laptops will allow for that if you have a singular jack that allows for multi-use connectivity for inputs and outputs, and or just a dedicated mic input, except for some of those devices, the few of them that are limited to the requirement of a TRRS connection, which requires an extra ring in there, and that's tip ring sleeve. and that is going to be where you need to combine everything into that one connector. In which case, if you do require that, you might need a new cable, and or, like they say, this is supposed to be for analog and digital use, so you can use the USB cable to hook this to a laptop or a computer via USB, so that way you can use it as an external USB microphone instead of analog 3.5. And then moving to the unit inside, you have a magnetic little flap here that just opens up, just pops right off, and then you can slide the case right out. And you have the charging case. Now the charging case, I already see one thing I like about this, but it's pretty simple. Looks similar to a lot of the charging cases that are out there for wireless mic kits. But what's nice about this one is that it maintains a small footprint. And that's one thing you got to look for when it comes to these. Some of these have like a bulkier kind of charging case, which kind of makes it hard to travel around with if you're trying to travel light. You don't want to carry around big backpacks or bags or anything like that. This can still be slipped into your back pocket in most pants, and or cargo pants or smaller bags. So that's always good. But one thing that really stood out to me just by picking it up is that the front and the back side of it here has a rubberized grip. So that way when you're picking it up out of the pouch or holding it and setting it down, if you tend to be a little bit clumsy and drop things easily, this helps to make sure that you maintain a grip. Then on the back, you have a USB-C connection. That's for the cable here. So that way you can plug this in and charge the case and everything that's inside of it. And again, you can use that to connect to your computer as well. You have 4 rubber feet on the bottom and a nice engraved Comica logo across the front. And then on the inside, everything's neatly laid out as you'd expect. You have your 2 transmitters and your receiver. And when I say as you'd expect, I mean this is generally the layout of most charging cases. Now, normally when you take these out of the case, they usually turn on. Of course, they ship them with these little protectors. You got to remember to take these off, and they just cover the contact points. So that way when it's in the case, it actually continues to charge. At the same time, during shipment, if anything gets kind of jarred or bounces around and it just perfectly disconnects from the contacts or anything, it's not going to be depleting the battery during shipment. It's just turned off until you take that off and put it back in the case. So if you don't take those off, you're going to be asking yourself, why aren't my devices charging? Now, one thing I do have to point out, it would benefit Comica if they used less sticky stickers to be able to pull that off, because pulling that one off, I left residue on the side here and a little bit of a blue residue I had to scrape off with my fingernail. So just something to keep in mind if you're watching this Comica, you might want to use something a little bit friendlier in terms of just comes off easily without leaving any residue behind. But beyond that, so far there's nothing wrong with this unit at all. But now that we have removed that, everything inside the case, now it shows that everything is charging. You can see the screen here. It tells you that both transmitters and the receiver currently are at either 7 to 8 hours and actively charging inside the case. And then there's one thing I failed to mention. In most cases, we'll have an LED status light right here on the front. That just tells you the current charge of the case. And as that depletes, it'll start to go on to show the difference between 100%, 75, 50, 25%. And of course, if you have no lights, well, you're dead. You got to charge it. So just something to keep an eye on, but it's easy because as before you leave for a shoot or something, just kind of pick it up, open and shut the case to wake it up and go, okay, what's my charge? Kind of goes by quickly. Once you open it, it lights up. But that allows you to get an idea. Plus you can see the internal batteries of each on the screen. So that way it doesn't take much time to go, okay, this is the charge I have, that's more than I need, and or do I need to put this on the charger? So taking them out, I can immediately tell you that these are not exactly the smallest wireless lav options out there. It does have a little bit of size to it, but at the same time, it's definitely not one of the biggest. I'd say these would fall into modern average, so not too big, but not the smallest either. But there is also a lot going on with this, so you're gonna probably get a little bit better quality from these microphones than you would something else that's smaller and has tighter profile for being able to fit your microphone in. And in this case, keeping in mind, you have for one, this is a robust construction. Got an aluminum clip here to make sure it's hard to break that off in any kind of accidents. But it's also a nice durable looking case. Also has some grip on the front here, which I like, so that helps to make sure you maintain it, maintain your grip without accidentally dropping it. But you also have those two microphones I had mentioned. You have two microphones on top here that you're able to switch between, which again is your cardioid or your omnidirectional microphone. And then you have a 3.5 millimeter out for use with an external lavalier mic. On the side here, you have your record button, so you can tell it to start recording. And on the other side here, you have a power button, which is also a mute button, so you can tell it to mute. And you have a button that offers dual functionality as well, which is going to be your option for pairing it to the receiver if you need to pair them, as well as your denoise option. You can enable denoise by pressing that as well. Now, when it's blinking like this, it just shows that it's unpaired. That's only because I got the receiver still inside here. If you ever get one of these or you need to replace one of these, that's just how you would trigger the pairing. But once it pairs, it'll go to a blue light, eventually showing that it is connected. And we have a solid light. So this shows that it's paired, and if it's just the regular blue light, that just shows you that denoise is off. If I press the denoise button, that's gonna turn green. Green says denoise is on. So now you have your environmental noise cancellation turned on. And then if you mute it, it's gonna go red, showing that you're muted. So always something to keep in mind. Red is bad, so that tells you red, it's muted. Now, if the red light starts blinking slowly, again, red is bad. That means that you have a low power, the battery's starting to die, and you need to put on the charger or swap microphones. Now, moving on to the receiver, you have your screen here. You can actually see that the volume meter is moving there because I'm talking directly into its microphone. But you have all of your different analytics here on the screen showing you your battery life of your transmitter as well as the receiver, because you want to be able to remotely monitor the battery life. Not a lot of these offer that option, but usually the ones with the touch screens will typically have some kind of battery life communicated between the two units. And it's important to have that because you don't want the person wearing the microphone to have to worry about being the one who's monitoring their own battery life. And you also want to make sure to avoid any red lights, any kind of distractions. So you don't want that light changing on them while it's clipped to their shirt or magnetically attached to the shirt. So, just maintaining a nice, calm, non-distracting interview or whatever content you're trying to shoot. While, you see ahead of time that, okay, that battery's getting kind of low. Let's go ahead and let's cut and come back to this with a fresh pack. But again, 7 to 8 hours, that's a lot, for a single charge without having to, constantly putting it out of the case to be able to get that. You get up to 20 hours with the case, but 7 to 8 hours should be able to be enough for most shoots. And then, of course, you have more analytics in here. It shows 1 or 2 connected, as well as what mode you're in. Are you in mono or stereo mode? Stereo mode is going to split the two up. So one will be in the left channel, the other one will be in the right channel. Mono will combine the two into one mono signal, which is what you're going to want to use if you're only using one. If you're using 2, we highly recommend using stereo mode because it's going to make life easier during post-edit. Now, if you're going live, of course, it's probably best to switch it to mono because most people do not like having to differentiate in their ears, one person against the other one from left versus right, because it becomes distracting. They want to hear it with both their ears like they're sitting on the soundstage and both of them are right in front of them naturally. So just something to consider. If you're streaming, probably use mono. If you're using only one, use mono. If you're doing post-edit later on and then you're going to put this online later, go stereo so it makes your post-editing a lot easier in case one person is talking too low and they need to be brought back or at least brought up in post-edit. But you have all of this information right here on the screen, which is nice, as well again as that volume meter, so that way you can tell how much volume you're getting from that person and you can take them up if necessary. On the side here, you have your outputs. You have your 3.5 millimeter analog output, as well as a 3.5 millimeter output for your headphones, which is for live monitoring. And then you have your USB on the back. All 3 of these have USB ports. All of them can be charged individually using a cable or all together while in the box. And then on the side over here, you have just simply one press button or pressable button. This one is a dual function button as well. Long press is going to power it on. Single press is just going to lock the screen, which is going to put a little lock on the screen that tells you, anything you do, you can't. It's just going to tell you locked. So this prevents any kind of accidental changes in your settings. Hit it again, and now it shows an unlock icon showing that now you can adjust all the settings. So it's pretty simple and straightforward and quite familiar to most wireless lav systems out there. So if you've used one of these before, it's going to take a matter of seconds to really familiarize yourself with how this works. So we're going to hook this up to the camera now so we can see what it sounds like. So now you're listening to the Comica BooMax 2.4G wireless Lav microphone system. And this is what it sounds like. It's simply just clipped to my shirt. That's it. And currently we are using the omnidirectional pickup pattern, so this is what it sounds like. And of course, with the noise cancellation turned on. Now I'm gonna turn it off, and now noise cancellation is turned off, or the CalMix 2-stage denoise mode is turned off, and this is what it's gonna sound like when noise cancellation is turned off. Now this is a mostly controlled atmosphere within our studio here, so there's not a lot of noise potential outside of general room noise. But you can still hear some sound, or at least I can, coming from the offices behind the wall here, or behind the door. But I don't know if this is going to pick that up. I'm going to turn that back on. Now denoise is back on. And this is what that sounds like. So again, we're using the omnidirectional, so that way we got the most, I'd say, sensitive pickup pattern on there, because it's just picking everything up, versus cardioid, which is going to be more of a focus on what it's pointing at. So we're going to go ahead and switch that. We're going to switch over to the cardioid pickup pattern, and we're going to do that from the camera, from the receiver. So by doing that, we go to the transmitter settings and then the pickup pattern, and you just change it from omnidirectional to cardioid. And it defaults to omnidirectional. That's why we started with that coming out of the case. So by default, you'll see the omnidirectional mode enabled. All of this is controlled from the receiver. You'd think it's controlled by the transmitter, but it's not. It's controlled from the receiver, which is kind of interesting, which means that the transmitter might be sending both and or just with the communicated back channel, or at least the back channel that it uses to communicate with the receiver for settings like battery life. It's probably listening for instructions to switch back and forth from there, which would make more sense, because then that would help with battery life versus recording with both mics at the same time. So again, cardioid is going to be a little bit more directional. That might benefit me a little bit to spin it around and point it more towards my face, so that way it's going to be a little bit more sensitive to my voice and less with whatever's going on over here. Not that it should be picking up any noise from like the LED lights on our truss or anything like that, but you never know. And it should sound a little bit better now versus pointing that way. But to know the difference on the receiver, to see the difference between omnidirectional and the cardioid mode, you're just going to be looking at the pickup pattern icon, which is going to be represented with just a basic circle for omnidirectional, and cardioid is going to be more like a, mostly circle with kind of like a wave underneath. It's not a full circle. So the difference between omnidirectional and cardioid, using general pickup pattern icons that are general representations of those two patterns in the industry. And I'm going to hit the record button here so that we have that. So now the other light is red. Now I did say red is bad. That's my fault. Red isn't always bad, because red also means record, so there is that. But that's a whole separate LED. So really the whole comments about red is bad is that first LED, not the smaller LED. That's right underneath it. So if the smaller LED underneath it is red, that just tells you that you're currently recording direct using that 48K 32-bit float internal recording on that 32 gigabit onboard storage, or gigabyte, not gigabit. So there you go. The Comica BooMax 2.4G wireless lavalier microphone system, dual lavalier microphone system, and with a name like that, BooMax, it's kind of poetic that it was released now, on the month of Halloween. So BooMax, maybe there's a correlation there, some kind of a connection between the actual name of the product and the fact that it was released within Halloween season. Who knows? Or maybe it was just complete coincidence. But that's it. So again, Comica BooMax 2.4G dual wireless lavalier microphone system, $189. That's it. It's a good price. And it's a perfect price for a system such as this. And of course, we're going to have links in the description where you'll be able to find this microphone. We'll include that in the the description, not the comment section, but the description of the video. And of course, use the comment section if you have any questions or remarks or anything else you'd like to discuss between each other, with us, or even the manufacturer in case they are watching. And of course, subscribe. If you don't already subscribe to us, definitely subscribe and follow us. We have so many videos out there, many more to come. And of course, tick the like button on this specific video so we know that you liked this specific video. As always, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. If you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest, and or at least the gadgets we cover, remember to subscribe right here. Subscription button. Click it. You're going to want to. There's lots of videos, interviews, previews, all sorts of stuff. Button. Click it.